Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Astral Pet Store. Author by Ancient She. Audio novels by Novelist. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 106 Rising Reputation. Thanks to his dummy trainers, he could sit in his shop and take it easy while waiting for the training sessions to end. Using their connection, he could feel that a dummy was almost his exact double, who could do everything he was capable of. When the dummy encountered something worth noticing inside the cultivation plane, Su Ping would know it immediately. At about 10 p.m., all pets entrusted to the shop that day had completed their training. Su Ping only had to wait for the following morning to give the pets back to their owners. The dummies had helped him do the training work several times faster, and without straining him. Since it was unlikely that he would receive any more customers at this late hour, Su Ping closed the shop and headed home. Across the door, he heard his mother and his sister happily talking to each other while laughing occasionally. Li Qingru saw him enter and asked with her face still blushing slightly due to her good mood, "You're late today. Is something up?" "Got a little busy at the shop," Su Ping answered casually while finding his slippers. Su Lingyu curled her lips and looked at the television, while absent-mindedly stroking her snowball, clearly to avoid seeing him. Without minding her sister, Su Ping changed into a lighter set of clothing, then he took out his phone and transferred some cash to Li Qingru's account. "Hey Mum, check your phone." Li Qingru did so and found the deposit message she had just received. "What? 50,000? Where did you find this much money?" Su Lingyu raised an eyebrow and pricked up her ears, but without looking Su Ping's way. "This is the monthly profit I accounted for at the shop last month. There's more, but we have to wait for several late orders to end." Su Ping had more savings in his account, but he didn't give it all, to avoid raising too much suspicion. Besides, he needed some money for himself. "You're earning from the shop?" Li Qingru looked surprised. Ever since she allowed Su Ping to handle the shop, the business kept going on the decline until several important customers had quit altogether due to Su Ping's terrible demeanor. Li Qingru was ready to see the shop completely closed down at this rate. She never thought she'd see any income arrive from Su Ping's hands, let alone such a big sum. 50,000 was not so much compared to the time she was still running the shop personally. But it was an impressive milestone for Su Ping. Li Qingru suddenly felt her eyes watering up. She could feel that her son was working hard to support her. Su Ping knew why his mother looked happy enough to cry, and he didn't know whether to be happy or not. Still, he wanted to please his mother, that was for sure. Mum," he sighed, "you can leave the shop to me from now on, so don't worry about it and have your rest. I'm sure I can get it in good shape so we have enough income to feed the both of you." Su Lingyu frowned. Did he say both of you? She thought the shop had nothing to do with her since she and Su Ping hated each other. Now that Su Ping offered to bring her along in their financial affairs, she suddenly felt grateful. Just a bit. She took a deep breath and kept up her "I don't care" expression. "Humph. I don't need your money. Worry about yourself first." It was her character that forced her to act up on the outside. Deep down, however, Su Lingyu was beginning to regard her brother in a new light. "I knew it. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me." Li Qingru tried hard not to tear up to avoid ruining the mood. "Wait up. I'll get you dinner." She almost ran into the kitchen. Su Ping looked at his mother leaving and also felt his eyes begin to sting. Su Lingyu glanced at him. "Come on, don't let our mum look at that, will you?" Su Ping didn't answer. Seeing Su Ping uncooperative again, Su Lingyu felt her old grudge returning, so she focused on the TV show again. Su Ping did feel peckish and was expecting a fulfilling meal made by his mother. However, the dishes brought to the table all looked pretty messed up except for one, as if a hungry animal had just rummaged through them. Su Ping glanced at his sister. What happened to his food was too obvious. Su Lingyu saw his complaining look. She cleared her throat and went upstairs. Li Qingru softened things up by saying, "It can't be helped, your sis had a tiring day. Here. I made a freshly roasted drumstick for you. Eat up." Su Ping nodded and began munching on the chicken leg. Yum. Li Qingru sat down and looked at him eating with a gentle smile. Thanks to you, we have enough money to get your sister a lightning rat. I'll go to the market tomorrow. You shouldn't, Mum. It's high time you let her learn how to pick new pets for herself. No matter how hard they tried, a random lightning rat wasn't going to do much good. Su Ping didn't want his mother to unnecessarily waste strength. He's right. I can get my own rat. Su Lingyu spoke at the end of the stairs, before she gave Su Ping an unfriendly look. Learn how to pick pets. Huh. You're one to talk. Su Ping responded by swallowing more poultry and giving her a satisfied smile. Humph. Su Lingyu stomped away. After dinner, Su Ping went to wash up and was going to return to his room. On his way, he sensed astral power floating about the neighboring room, which meant Su Lingyu was training. Putting all matters aside, he would admit that his sister was quite a hard worker. Training and cultivation might appear to be fun in the eyes of the unwary. People who actually spent days and nights getting down to war quickly find them tiring and dull. If such things were fun, this world would be full of dedicated cultivators already. Su Ping entered his room to do his own training on the bed, while splitting his mind to think about plans for the following day. With his dummy trainers to help, he had time to check in with the academy. That was what he intended to do. Besides, being a teacher meant he could freely promote his shop to the students. 2 birds with 1 stone. The next morning, he woke up refreshed and without any of his sister's pranks. He found it to be boring at first, but soon tossed that thought aside because he didn't want to be a weirdo who enjoyed being spooked. After having a quick breakfast, he rode to his shop as fast as he could. He saw 7 or 8 familiar faces already waiting at the door from a distance. Although he didn't plan to rush his actions, like usual, he took some time locking up his bike before casually heading to the shop's entrance. Some of the waiting customers were already coming his way. There you are, Mr. Su. Zhang Beixing was the first one to speak. Good timing, Mr. Su. Can you train my baby again? Mine too. Clearly, those people were all satisfied with the results they had seen the day before. Can you all make some way first? Su Ping complained. The customers quickly stepped aside to reveal a path for him as if they were soldiers welcoming their general. Su Ping shook his head and wondered if every morning would be this noisy from then on. With the help of several passionate students, they lifted the shutter door together. Su Ping turned around and checked the crowd outside. Get in line, one at a time. Yes, sir. Everyone quickly did as told. Su Ping never thought those people would act so obediently, although he was glad because of it. He took out his account book and began addressing them one after one. Name, and which service you're buying. Zhang Beixing. Pet training, sir. It's the same pyro canine from yesterday, Zhang Beixing announced loud and clear as if attending a military briefing. Su Ping rubbed his ears. Pipe down. And your payment, please. Of course. Zhang Beixing quickly took out his phone to make a transfer, before summoning his pet in the shop. The handsome creature materialized by stepping on several embers and showed a grand entrance. But as soon as it recognized the familiar elements around it, especially Su Ping's face, it lost its balance and stumbled to the floor. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 107. Su Ping the teacher reporting in. It's this guy again, the creature thought to itself while its dog face twisted in despair. ARF. Roarf. Aru. Zhang Beixing was stunned by the unusual reaction of his pet. He wondered if the pyro canine was too excited for the training session. Man, it even got smarter. I gotta come here more often. Sit. Zhang Beixing tried comforting the agitated animal. It'll be your turn soon. The dog responded by puffing up its fur. Zhang Beixing looked embarrassed by the scene staged by his pet. It was Su Ping who helped calm the dog down by staring at it. Whine. The pyro canine shuddered uncontrollably as it remembered how it was impossible to escape from this human devil. It then put its head on the floor and covered its eyes with its 2 front paws. Next, Su Ping looked at the queue again. Here Here, it was the girl with a pointy jaw from the day before. She eagerly summoned her pet. Mr. Su, please take care of this little guy. Just like the pyro canine, her pet valiantly came out to protect its master, only to be on the verge of losing it completely. When both its master and Su Ping, friendly, told it not to run away, it joined the trembling pyro canine with the same look of pure hopelessness. The same thing was repeated until the last waiting customer was addressed. It seemed every pet had clearly remembered the terrible ordeal it went through. As the customers politely bid farewell to Su Ping and left the shop, their pets tried running after them, only to either get sent back or be dragged back by Su Ping. Their last bit of hope had been mercilessly extinguished when their owners happily told them to obey. When he was left alone, Su Ping dragged the pets to the back of the shop where the pet room was located and placed them in the vacant nursing pens. Or inside the nursing space, when the pens were filled. Next, he organized the different pets into categories and summoned several dummies to start training them. The last job was to call all the customers who should pick up their pets that day. Since Su Ping needed to go to the academy later, he asked those people to go there after school ended. By the time he was ready to leave, it was only 9 in the morning. There was no need to hurry. He soon arrived at the Phoenix Peak Academy on his bike. He glanced at the majestic statue of a purple-tailed divine phoenix at the entrance before heading inside, but was stopped by a gate guard. Su Ping sure looked like another student, although those who could afford to study there didn't usually use bicycles to travel. Besides, the first class of the day had already started. Su Ping was late for that. Your student ID, please, the guard asked politely. Since he had nothing like that, Su Ping could only call Dongming Song to help him get inside. Excited, the vice principal quickly phoned the guard to explain what was going on. Meanwhile, the guard looked at the student-like young man in front of him and couldn't believe what he just heard. I'm truly sorry for that, Mr. Su. Please come in. Su Ping didn't say anything since the guard was only doing his job. He felt bad that what happened just then might have placed a stain on this man's resume. While still on his bike, he entered the academy and followed a shaded path for a while, before he realized that this place was bigger than he thought. He couldn't find his way. As he wondered whether he should jump onto a tree to get a better look of the surroundings, he heard someone with high heels approaching and looked in that direction. It was a rather beautiful lady who was walking toward him on a pair of eye-catching white legs. When looking up, he saw her wearing a khaki short skirt and a well-ironed black suit that suggested the professional demeanor of an office lady. Her red-rimmed glasses were also a nice touch that added to her professorly aura. There was a problem though. She didn't look exactly friendly. This was why Su Ping didn't ask her how to move around in these parts, for he feared that the lady was not someone he could carelessly talk to. The woman soon reached him since they were using the same path. Then she gave him a big frown. Which class are you from? Classes are in session right now, why are you still loitering outside? Cheng Xuanhuan checked Su Ping's casual wear and knitted her brows harder. Oh, well, I just came here today. May I know the way to the vice principal's office? A freshman. In that case, you should go to the director in charge of the class you're assigned to. I happen to be a teacher responsible for the first years. Which room are you heading to? Su Ping scratched his head. I'm a new teacher, ma'am. Mr. Dongming Song asked me to meet up with him first. A teacher. Just like the guards, Cheng Xuanhuan didn't seem to believe that someone like Su Ping could teach in the academy. But she found no traces of lies, either. I need to talk to the vice principal later. We should keep the standard for employment above the line, she thought. With unqualified teachers, our students will also be negatively affected. I'm going there as well, follow me. Cheng Xuanhuan went ahead without looking back. Delighted, Su Ping quickly kept up with her. But then he noticed that they were too slow this way. Ma'am, should I give you a lift? Cheng Xuanhuan glanced at his cheap bicycle. No, thanks. There were rich students in the academy who often offered her rides in brand new limousines, while she never bothered to look at them. Of course she wasn't going to want that sorry stuff. Su Ping didn't feel like pulling his bike on foot, so he kept up with Xuanhuan by riding in random ways. He started zigzagging along the narrow path and occasionally circling around Xuanhuan so he didn't need to slow down. Xuanhuan's lips twitched when she saw Su Ping's ridiculous behavior. What is the vice principal thinking, letting this man be a teacher of the academy? It took them roughly 10 minutes to reach a building Su Ping recognized, which was where Dongming Song usually stayed. The last time, he was taken there directly from the stadium, so he had no idea how to reach the place from the main gate. All right. He smiled at Xuanhuan and rode away. Thanks for your help, miss. Toodles. Xuanhuan frowned again and kept going without minding him. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 108. Prepare to teach. Su Ping arrived at the main door of the building and saw a middle-aged teacher with a really big body build looking at him. Mr. Su. The man's eyes brightened up upon seeing him coming. There you are. The vice principal's been waiting for a while. He sent someone to pick me up here. Oh, sorry. I'm not familiar with the directions. It took me some time. Don't worry about that, you'll get better after a few more visits. Feng Yanjing posed a friendly smile while carefully inspecting the young man he was looking at. If not for Dongming Song and Luo Guxu's testimonies, he would never believe that a boy who had yet to reach his 20s could kill a magical corpse beast, an upper 8th rank astral pet. Maybe it was another pet who finished the kill, and Su Ping might or might not be its master. But being able to control a powerful pet was already impressive. Someone so young who could control a 7th rank pet was a miracle by itself. Not to mention that the skeleton was likely of the 9th rank, according to the witnesses. Feng Yanjing looked more carefully and found nothing other than cheap clothes and unkempt manners from Su Ping. Could someone like this be the extraordinary genius everyone was talking about? Come, follow me. Feng Yanjing looked away. Either way, Su Ping somehow had become well respected by the vice principal of the academy. This alone told Feng Yanjing that he should act carefully. Right after Su Ping nodded and parked his bike, using a chain to lock it with the guardrail along the stairs. Feng Yanjing saw it with twitching lips and began leading the way. The main elevator of the building conveniently took him to the top floor, where Dongming Song's office was located. Feng Yanjing gently knocked on the door, waiting for Dongming Song's answer, and gave Su Ping a "this way" gesture. Su Ping nodded and entered the room, in which Dongming Song was already waiting with a big smile. Have you decided to join the league, my boy? Compared to Su Ping's lessons, the old principal was more concerned about the other matter. Su Ping tilted his head. I said I'm not going to join, Mr. Dong. I don't have the time for it. Dongming Song could see that Su Ping had never given it a second thought. Sigh my word, such a great opportunity missed. Su Ping wanted to get to the point. We'll talk about our schedule, right? Should I give the students a lesson today? Dongming Song shook his head and poured 2 cups of tea. Now, I never doubted your strength, Mr. Su. However, being strong and teaching your strength to others are completely different. I plan to assign you to the first years. Compared to their seniors, these new students are easier to handle. What do you say? Su Ping knew that Dongming Song didn't believe he had what it took to keep more rowdy students under control, though he wasn't going to argue. It's fine. I would still give him 2 lessons per week, right? That's what we'll do. All right. Dongming Song seemed glad that Su Ping agreed to teach that soon. We shall do some extra preparation work since you're here. I'll tell the other teachers to inform your students of your arrival. Since students in this place are usually too busy to check the website, most of them still have no idea that they have a new teacher. Su Ping nodded. Not his problem. Dongming Song saw his careless look and added, just like ordinary teachers, advanced teachers might have their salary altered depending on their performance. If your class is full without a single dropout, you get another 1,000 professor credits as a bonus. Or 500, if less than 3 students abandon your course. If more than 10 students go absent, 10 points will be deducted from your base payout for each quitter. 100 points at most. This is to prevent teachers from slacking off on their jobs. You shouldn't worry about this, however, as lessons presented by advanced teachers are always popular among students. You may see 1 or 2 on taken seats, but that's very rare. Su Ping sighed. It seemed he had to put some effort in his teaching job, and it sounded like a pain. Feng Yanjing suddenly spoke outside the door. Mr. Dong. Director Cheng is here asking to see you. Let her in then. I have something to tell her as well. Right away. A few seconds later, Cheng Xuanhuan entered the room and looked at Su Ping and Dongming Song talking peacefully with an odd look. Just as I thought, this man bribed his way in, didn't he? When thinking about this, she gave Dongming Song an unhappy stare, which caused Dongming Song to grow uneasy instead. Dongming Song had known Cheng Xuanhuan for a long time. She had always been a strict soul. Not even the smallest mistake would be easily tolerated. Adding her cold temperament, most students in the academy feared her rather than respect her. Dongming Song wondered if he did something to annoy her recently. Meanwhile, Su Ping looked behind him and happily greeted the woman with a smile. You know each other? Asked Dongming Song. Yeah. Su Ping turned back. I could find your office thanks to her. I see. Director Cheng, nice timing. This young man is the new advanced teacher we hired, Mr. Su Ping. He's going to present a lesson later today. Make sure you tell this information to your class and any other students who might be interested. Cheng Xuanhuan didn't respond because she had just heard something she couldn't believe. An advanced teacher, this young man. When Su Ping told her that he was there to teach, Cheng Xuanhuan thought he was only a backup teacher who came to make up for someone else's absence. There were only 4 advanced teachers in the entire academy, 3 of whom were skillful advanced battle pet warriors. The last one was an 8th rank master battle pet warrior who could command 2 9th rank astral pets, and was undeniably the strongest fighter among all teachers. Students would give everything to join his lessons. And you're telling me this insignificant young man is like those people? Cheng Xuanhuan shook her head to clear her mind before speaking. Are you sure about this, Mr. Vice Principal? Mr. Su Ping is, no offense, but how old is he? 20. Dongming Song realized what she was worrying about. Trust me, Director Cheng. Su Ping's age doesn't hinder his potential in the slightest. As someone who once killed an upper 8th rank magical corpse beast, he's not so far from being a master battle pet warrior himself. If you don't trust me, which is quite understandable, you may go and talk to Miss Luo later. She has seen everything with her own eyes. Cheng Xuanhuan lost her calm, which was rare for her. He killed a magical corpse beast. That's absurd. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 109. On a deeper level. Cheng Xuanhuan knew that since Dongming Song had mentioned Luo Guxu, for whatever reason, it indicated that this young man had to be rather remarkable. Dongming Song understood Cheng Xuanhuan's surprise fully. After all, the first time he heard about Su Ping's story, he was just as astonished. He trusted that Luo Guxu would not tell a lie. Besides, Dongming Song suspected that some top-level master trainer was helping Su Ping secretly, based on what he saw from the lightning rat. As such, he found it acceptable, although surprising, about Su Ping's strength. Mr. Su is a talent rarely seen. You cannot judge him with common standards. It is a pity that Mr. Su will not be available for the Elite League. Otherwise, I trust that he could very likely participate as a representative of our academy, Dongming Song explained and sounded sorry. Cheng Xuanhuan was shocked speechless. She had been a teacher there for 4 or 5 years. She graduated as a star student. During those years as a teacher, she had seen some outstanding, gifted students, such as the champion of Grade 3, Yi Hao, and that genius Su Yanying Xing Cheng, the winner from the previous year and Bai Mo from the year before that were both excellent students. They were their teachers and the academy's pride. But none of them could claim that they could kill a magical corpse beast at the upper position of the 8th rank while at Su Ping's age. That was unbelievable. Cheng Xuanhuan found it surreal as she recalled how careless and sloppy as Su Ping rode his bike and how cheap his clothes were. She understood that however strong you were, there would always be someone stronger. After all, she had seen some pure geniuses at the Elite League. The battle pet warriors that could enter the finals every year were the ones that could summon 9th rank pets to fight while they were at the 6th rank. Fighting enemies of a higher rank was common for those people. A true genius could fight enemies of such ranks that people would be astonished. While she was shocked by Su Ping and his strength, it was still acceptable to her. She just didn't expect that someone that could shine brilliantly like a star in the elite league could stand right in front of her, with an image that was nothing like what she had imagined. Since she had nothing to say, Dongming Song turned to Su Ping. "Have you figured out what particular subject you want to teach?" Su Ping had not prepared at all. He asked, "What do you usually teach here?" Dongming Song knew that Su Ping was unprepared for his question. Inside, Dongming Song was smiling bitterly. The basic information, such as the usual basic augmentation skills battle pet warriors use, the pet's habitat, and how to pair with the pet's skills, etc., all of this is taught by the average teachers. Advanced teachers teach something that cannot be found in textbooks. For example, your own experience in training pets, or some special application of a certain skill, something you developed on your own, or pet's practical training. You can demonstrate in person the different effects the same skills can generate. Having heard that, Su Ping was stunned. He didn't realize that the lecture could be this complicated. Not everyone could do this. "What does Mrs. Luo teach?" Su Ping asked curiously. Dongming Song smiled. "Mrs. Luo spends many days battling in the barren lands, so she usually teaches the practical battle experience and some survival secrets in the barren lands. That's what the students are eager to learn. After all, after graduation, many students will choose to go to the barren lands. They must get familiar with them, to understand their future battlegrounds." Su Ping digested this information and asked again, "How about the other three?" "They have similar topics but the contents vary. Sometimes, they will teach students some of their pet training experience. For example, Mr. Lin he is a part-time trainer himself. So, he will show the students some tips for training pets." With that said, Dongming Song remembered that Su Ping was somewhat of a trainer as well. After all, there was the top-level master trainer behind his back. He must have taught Su Ping some knowledge. Dongming Song proposed, "When you give your lectures, you can talk about pet training. That can attract many students over." Su Ping didn't respond to the suggestion. He was thinking Dongming Song didn't wish to disturb him, so he said to Cheng Xuanhuan, "You are here for me." "What is it?" Cheng Xuanhuan had come back to her senses. She darted a glance at Su Ping's back with a troubled look. She was there to ask Dongming Song about the textbook and discuss with him about Su Ping teaching. However, considering the reason why Su Ping had been hired, there was nothing she could see. After all, Su Ping was not there as an average teacher. Her opinion would not matter. "I think there is something wrong with those teaching materials." Cheng Xuanhuan gave the books she had to Dongming Song and went on, "I have dog-eared and marked the pages where I see the problem. Vice Principal, you can take a look when you get a chance. You are an 8th rank battle pet warrior. You are more informed than I am. I don't know if the problems are in the textbooks or my understanding." Dongming Song didn't know she was going to ask about this. He cast his eyes on the books placed on the table and then said to Cheng Xuanhuan with a smile, "Sure. I will get back to you when I finish reading." He did appreciate the dedication Cheng Xuanhuan put into her work. Cheng Xuanhuan nodded and left after giving one final look to Su Ping. After she was gone, Dongming Song called in Feng Yanjing who had been outside the door. He told the latter to notify the class monitors to promote Su Ping's lectures and his identity. Feng Yanjing said yes. There were some weird looks in his eyes but he didn't show them on his face. When Feng Yanjing left, Su Ping had figured out what he was going to teach. He had to think, not because he had nothing to give, but because he had too much stuff he knew. He had to select something not that confidential. He had not spent much time in the barren lands yet, and his astral powers were not strong. He had only been a battle pet warrior for a short time. That being said, he had seen the world after hundreds and thousands of times dying in the cultivation sites and from going across many cultivation sites. He had seen ancient pets that could not be found in the illustration book of the Federation. He had found pet food that should have become extinct a long time before. He had struggled to survive in many different kinds of environments. He had fought against advanced pets, beast kings, and creatures that were even more powerful. He was sadly killed in an instant when he encountered the latter two kinds of beasts. He had seen how the beast kings were making their moves. He knew it all, how beast kings of various species released their kills, what would be the indications and the habits when they launched their attacks. He remembered some fatally poisonous plants would prey on the creatures that came near. Those were things rarely seen in the uncultivated areas on the blue planet. However, in the worlds found in the unknown space fractures, there was a high chance that those creatures were found. After all, in those worlds inside the space fractures, things that should have been gone would be frequently spotted, just like the cultivation sites Su Ping entered. Apart from that fresh knowledge, Su Ping had a profound insight into his own skills. For example, using skills with deterrence powers to solve spirit attacks. This was his unique learning. Besides, some skills could produce miracles when applied together. He came across those combos after thousands of times a death. So, have you decided? Dongming Song noticed how Su Ping became relaxed. The former said with a smile, "Don't be too intense. You can think about the pets you are more skilled in." Luo Guxu, for example, teaches knowledge about pets of the fire family because she has this flare bird of the fire family. She has an in-depth study of pets of the fire family. On the other hand, Mr. He has a profound knowledge of the pets of the water family. Students that prefer pets of the fire family and the water family will not miss their lectures. Su Ping nodded. Then I will teach about the pets of the undead family. Dongming Song was taken aback. Pets of the undead family. Pets of the undead family was a large category at the very beginning, an independent family, just like the demon family and the dragon family. However, since too few people would use them, pets of the undead family were now included in the pets of the demon family. At the Phoenix Peak Academy, few people would use pets of the undead family. After all, most pets of the undead family appeared too ferocious and ugly. Besides, food for pets of the undead family was hard to find. Some pets of the undead family even feed on fresh hearts. For the general students, this was a huge test on their psychology. Is there a problem? Su Ping asked. Dongming Song produced a forced smile. That's not a problem, but few students use pets of the undead family. I'm afraid. That is okay. They may not use pets of the undead family, but they will encounter them sooner or later when they went to the unclaimed territories. Can they choose not to fight some monsters? Su Ping explained. Dongming Song was surprised, but he nodded in agreement. That is true. Are you going to share some information about fighting against creatures of the undead family? More or less. Su Ping nodded. He had decided. He could teach something useful but not confidential. For example, some battle skills on a slightly deeper level. Survival experiences in the wild on a slightly deeper level. And the application of skills on a slightly deeper level. It wasn't that he wanted to hide this information. It was just that those were enough for the students. He himself would have a hard time to apply some of the more complicated skills. Of the things he was going to teach, using deterrence skills to solve spirit attacks was the simplest one. Yet, for the students, it could be considerably difficult. The user had to strike a fine balance while releasing the skill. A millisecond could make a world of difference. Generally speaking, people might not be able to use this skill even if they knew the steps. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 110A Sensation. If you say so. Dongming Song learned from Luo Guxu that the pet Su Ping used to kill the magical corpse beast was a special skeleton. Su Ping must have extensive knowledge about undead pets. He could pass on some knowledge unavailable in textbooks. It would be up to Su Ping to see how the lectures turned out to be. Dongming Song could not help no matter how concerned he was. Soon, after Feng Yanjing gave the notice, the news that a new advanced teacher was going to give lectures was spread out to all class monitors and teachers of the first year. When they logged onto the official website to look at the new advanced teacher, all of them were stunned because of how young he looked. Su Ping's brief resume was presented on the website as well. It was brief indeed. The introduction contained merely the name, age, and his achievements. There was actually only one achievement, him killing an abnormal magical corpse beast at the upper position of the 8th rank. This fact alone was enough to astonish everyone. All the teachers found it hard to believe that Su Ping, seemingly at the age of 18, could have killed a magical corpse beast. Not to mention an uncommonly strong one. As the initial shock faded away, the teachers grew more interested in this mysterious new teacher. They wanted to find out the truth. At the same time, they told their students about Su Ping's lectures quickly so that they could go and widen their horizons. Whether the information was true or not, they could find out with their own eyes. Soon, this news stirred up every first-year class. A new advanced teacher, 18 years old, killed a magical corpse beast. Those keywords were enough to catch everyone's attention. The most eye-appealing fact was his age. Of the other 4 advanced teachers, Xuanhuan, the most powerful among them, could also slaughter a magical corpse beast, and could even fight a 9th rank beast. However, Xuanhuan was over 40 when Su Ping was only 18. If this was the truth, then it was truly stunning. For a time, students gathered to discuss this matter heatedly. Some had questions, while some grew curious and others remained shocked. However, they all wanted to see this new advanced teacher who appeared to be quite mysterious. Class 6, Year 1. Su Lingyu was sitting by her desk, thinking about a question on the book. The question read, Ming brings a common 3rd-rank flame-tailed rooster to fight against Hong's common 3rd-rank marsh crocodile at a wetland. Both battle pet warriors master the same augmentation skills. The question is, how many ways can Ming choose to win this fight? This question eliminated the battle pet warriors' differences. Both battle pet warriors had the same skills. This question was about the understanding and application of pet skills. How many ways? Theoretically speaking, it was already a hard thing for the flame-tailed rooster to win against its enemy at a wetland. Could there be more than one way? Herein lay the crux of this difficult question. While lost in her thoughts, she rolled the pencil in her hand while she began to simulate the scene in her head. All of a sudden, it became quite noisy around her. Su Lingyu was startled out of her deep thoughts. She frowned and looked around, only to see all her classmates checking their phones and discussing something in surprise. A new advanced teacher. 18. Su Lingyu heard those words coming from him. She raised her eyebrows and reached for her phone as well. Suddenly, the girl next to her nudged her elbow and said in amazement, Yuayu, check this out. We have a new advanced teacher and he's only 18. He has already killed a magical corpse beast. How awesome is that? I wonder if this is true. From the corner of her eyes, Su Lingyu took a look. The first thing that leaped into her eyes was a profile photo. The person was her lousy brother. Su Lingyu was frozen by the shock. Out of instinct, she cast a glance at this friend of hers. When did this girl develop a crush on her mean brother? Wow, how dare this girl target people in her family? Even a rabbit knew not to foul its own hole. Su Lingyu gently pinched her thigh and ground her teeth. Jiang Xingyu swiped the website as she went on. Take a look. It says he's only 18 and named Su Ping. Why do I think the name is familiar? Su Lingyu found herself shocked again. This time, she noticed the edge of the website. It looked like the official website of the academy. She grabbed Jiang Xingyu's phone and swiped back to the beginning of the page. It was indeed the official website and the section header read, Advanced Teacher. Did Jiang Xingyu click the link of Advanced Teachers? She swiped it down quickly and saw Su Ping's introduction, Advanced Teacher, Su Ping. She opened her eyes wide, as if she had seen a ghost in plain daylight. That loser is an advanced teacher in the academy. Seriously. Was the official website hacked? Noticing how stunned she was, something sprang to Jiang Xingyu's mind. Her jaw dropped as well. Yuayu, isn't he the underdog brother you told us about? Didn't you say that he was just an unawakened, regular fellow? How? Su Lingyu's mind was buzzing in chaos as well. She was unable to reply. She just felt that something must be awfully wrong, even though she knew her brother had awakened recently. Even so, he couldn't have become an advanced teacher now, could he? Killing a magical corpse beast? Impossible. I have to ask Director Cheng. Su Lingyu came back to her mind. She stood up immediately. Jiang Xingyu also realized what had happened. This new advanced teacher that had created a sensation across the entire first year was her deskmate's brother. Filled with astonishment and curiosity, Jiang Xingyu said in a hurry, "I'll go with you." The two of them left the class together to seek the truth. At the same time, many students were gathered at a spacious battle sports ground in the zone for third years, all of them bustling with excitement. This was the free training period for their class. Many students were comparing notes and some were resting under the trees by the side. Outside the sports ground, two young men sat on the branches of a flourishing tree. One of them was wearing a white shirt from a famous brand. He sat on a thick branch, leaning against the trunk idly, tilting his head to look at the students on the sports field. Those pet fights were too juvenile and childish for him. Given his strength, he was more interested in the life and death struggles he was going to experience at the uncultivated worlds after graduation. At the same time, he was eagerly anticipating the elite league that was going to be held soon. He wondered which place he could attain with his abilities. "Young Master Yi, here you go." A young man sitting next to him gave him some barbecued meat. This young man was sitting in a spider web knit between some branches. This spider web was more like a hammock, made by his pet. Yi Hao accepted the barbecued meat and took some bites. All of a sudden, he was filled with strong emotions. "After I graduate, I will never have a taste of this delicious food in the academy again." The young man who offered the meat smiled. "Think about your status. Are you going to miss this kind of street snack? You can just come back and buy some." Yi Hao shook his head and smiled. He didn't want to say anything. After he finished the kebab, he hurled the stick toward the tree on the opposite side. The stick was nailed to the tree just like an arrow. Yi Hao said to the young man, "In the future when I get a chance, I will visit you in the Class C barren area." "No problem. We'll have some drinks again," the young man replied with a smile. Yi Hao laughed. All of a sudden, he felt his pants were buzzing. A new message had arrived. He grabbed his phone, swiped it open, and saw a private message. He opened it and the casualness on his face froze. He frowned and clicked on the link. Soon, the link was directed to the official website, the page of advanced teachers. 5 profile photos showed up. He couldn't be more familiar with the first 4. At the moment, the new photo jumped into his eyes at once. He squinted his eyes in shock. It's him. He remembered this face vividly. He was the so-called Mr. Su standing next to Su Yanying at the exhibition match. Yi Hao had given Su Ping 100,000 coins as a down payment. He couldn't have forgotten about this store owner. Didn't he run a pet store? How come he became an advanced teacher for nothing? Yi Hao clicked on this link and saw the name, age, and achievements. He killed a magical corpse beast. Yi Hao was completely struck. The young man next to him was surprised. What is going on? Yi Hao was still absent-minded. A moment later, he came back to his senses. He threw another look at the screen and refreshed the page. Still, the information was there. Something changed on his face that made him look cloudy. He replied, "There's a new advanced teacher in school. He is teaching today. We need to go and have a look." The young man was surprised, since he had received no news at all about the arrival of the advanced teacher. Whoosh! Yi Hao jumped down from the tree and gently landed on the ground, even though the branch was 7 to 8 meters above the ground. Without further ado, he rushed toward the first year's area. News about the advanced teacher was spread and soon learned by the entire academy. Only teachers of the first year had been notified. However, given the astonishing nature of Su Ping's resume, the other grades heard about it as well. Some students that had visited Su Ping's store recognized him immediately. To their surprise, this was Mr. Su, whom they had met not long before. How come Mr. Su became a teacher here? An advanced teacher. While everyone was still in shock, Dongming Song had chosen the venue for Su Ping's lecture. As soon as this information was made public, people began to gather outside the place. Most of the students arrived with doubts. The more suspicious the matter seemed, the more curious they were. Among these queuing crowds, there were also a large number of senior students from the second and third years but were rejected due to the lecture hall's capacity. They could only wait outside. The venue was already packed half an hour before the official lecture. It was a lively full house. After all, this was the first lecture given by the new teacher. It was bound to be the center of attention. Previously, when the other advanced teachers gave their first lecture, the seats were also occupied, but never this quickly. The venue could hold 10,000 people. That was the fact. There was a battlefield in the middle of the venue so that the teachers could demonstrate their pets for field training. End of the chapter. Astral Pets Store will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.